Israel, the ceasefire is violated again. Israel's being shot at. Every other news outlet is talking about how Donald Trump has to do a forceful response here. Donald Trump has to reign in Israel, potentially. What is Fox News talking about? Exposing the truth. Genocidal apartheid nation that is willing to destroy the entire fucking planet's energy markets in an effort to achieve one of its military objectives of destroying the only sovereign nation in the region, Iran, from being a military deterrence against their Greater Israel project. That's it. You can sit around and say, oh, that's anti-Semitic. It's just the fucking reality. And if you choose to not reckon with this reality and to change your mentality, then you're participating in the fucking belligerence. Yeah. Greater Israel is an alt-right Israeli opinion. Israel has no intent. Yeah, just like liberal Zionists for years and years said, oh, we hate the West Bank settlers. Oh, we hate it. It doesn't represent the government's position at all. While simultaneously, the government was offering material support to the settlers and expanded the West Bank operations to the tune of 750,000 settlers that destroyed what remains of a fucking potential West Bank that could be given to the Palestinians as it was intended by international law. Okay? What are we doing? It's always fucking speaking out of two sides of your goddamn mouth at the same time. West Bank is in Greater Israel. It doesn't matter if it's a part of Greater Israel or not, you fucking idiot. What matters is what's happening. What matters is what's happening. And what's happening is that Israel has destroyed any hope of a two-state solution. Oh my God, the West Bank is out of the Greater Israel debate, mate. Holy fuck. What is with this chatter's obsession with Channel 14? Ask them who their finance minister is. Ask them who their defense minister is. I know. Go debate your countrymen, okay? Go debate your fucking countrymen. You're just trying to be like, oh, you're silly. You're stupid for saying the West Bank is part of the Greater Israel Project. It's obviously not, dude. Well, we've seen the fucking patch notes, okay? It clearly doesn't fucking matter. What matters is what's happening on the ground. Pogroms against the Palestinian population and complete defense of the settlers that are engaging in these violent actions. And sometimes the IDF itself also engaging in the pogroms. Who gives a fuck whether you think it's not a part of it or not? I'm not saying you're stupid. I'm actually appreciating the time for the debate. Yeah, I'm not stupid. If anything, if there's one delusional party in this conversation, it's you, my friend. Delusional enough to think that like the most far-right elements in Israeli society do not actually operate as the tip of the spear to give you plausible deniability, not even against the rest of the world, because that shit doesn't work anymore for the rest of the world, but for you to wash your hands of the immorality of the actions of the far-right elements. Oh, it's them doing it. Oh, it's the state turning a blind eye to it. It's all fucking bullshit at the end of the day. Because Israel is consistently engaging in frontierism, where they create the next frontier as a justification for Israeli security. For Jewish security, as a matter of fact. That's what they say. Oh, Jews have to be safe, and that's why we have to take over more and more land from other people. We have to destroy their lives. We have to burn their crops. We have to engage in ecological terrorism. We have to kill them. We have to purge them from this land because we, the chosen ones, have to take this land. It's a religious extremist, psychopathic, fascist cult that is unbelievably racist, and that's precisely the reason why there's not a lot of fucking resistance against it. Like I've brought this up in the past. You're correlating two different things. One is from Israel. One is from the alt-right fam. Brother, it's like saying America is not an alt-right country currently. What the fuck are you talking about? You think America is not run by the MAGA cult currently? Because it is. Wake the fuck up. It's so stupid, dude. Oh, dude, Adolf Hitler is alone. Nazism is a scourge. Well, guess what? In spite of, in spite of the horrifying things that the Nazis did, guess what regular German society did? In far higher numbers. They resisted. They got killed for it. I don't see that same kind of initiative from Israeli society as a whole. There were far larger numbers of regular Germans, socialists, communists, trade unionists alike, that militarily fought against the Nazi scourge. Okay? And they died in the process. They got sent to the concentration camps in the process. Far larger numbers than Israeli society as a whole. Where is the Israeli resistance against Israel's fascism? There are some, and I give them credit for it, but they're unbelievably limited in their numbers. So if it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, then perhaps the duck is fucking fascist. You can say it's alt-right, but I don't see you opposing it. As a matter of fact, I see you defending Israel's actions right now in the exact same ways. This is like coming to me and being like, oh, dude, what are you fucking doing? Well, I'm trying to do my very best, okay? I'm trying to do my very best to fight back against the fucking Nazi-ass Trump government, okay? I'm not going to turn around and ever tell someone who's coming in here to be like, America is a Nazi country, to be like, oh, shut the fuck up. America has a right to defend itself. Get the fuck out of here. You are the one who's choosing to defend Israel's actions. You have to fix your brain, okay?
Do you agree with that?
No, it's because the Democrats are supporting Iran, because literally they hate Trump more than they love the country. I mean, it comes down to that with Hakeem at sometimes. No, this is not easy. Peace is not easy when you have a belligerent country and a belligerent leadership like the Islam.
Oops. This is like when Chuck Schumer said, Israel must never have a right to nuclear arms. Israel, we must never allow a nuclear Israel. Iran.
Islamic Republic of Iran. But the fact that he wants to sell out the country because they hate Trump so much, they want Trump to lose so badly that they don't care about their children or their grandchildren or the future of the free world for that matter, I think is very sad. I think it's tragic. It's a mar across our nation. But, you know, that's one of the challenges of democracy, where we have differing sides that come in.
Yeah. Iranian official tells Jeremy that Trump is to blame for Israel's strikes on Beirut and that he appears simply incapable of reaching an agreement. Iranian official tells Jeremy Scahill, at this point, reaching an agreement with Trump is not really feasible. The primary person responsible for the current situation is Donald Trump himself. The Iranian official told me, referring to Israel's massive escalation in its attacks against Lebanon and Iran's retaliatory strikes against Israel. Should Israel carry out another attack on Beirut in the coming days, missiles will immediately target areas within occupied territories in retaliation. For nearly 20 days, the draft of a potential agreement has been on Trump's desk, said the official, adding that Trump is driven by his fear of the Israeli lobby and his hope that the naval blockade plan will prove effective. Iran will no longer accept or tolerate his current position. This is a seismic shift in the Iranian attitudes. I have wondered out loud as to why Iran had not actually struck back against Israel in an effort to reestablish its deterrence and in an effort to also force Trump's hand into restraining Israel. Now it's happened. Now we wait. Now we see if Donald Trump actually is sincere about potentially restraining Israel, or if war is back on the menu, like full scale, outright war, not dissimilar to what we saw with the endless bombing campaigns. Trita also says, he's been posting up a fucking storm on his Substack. There's a surprising level of surprise in the West that Iran was serious about its demand for a region-wide ceasefire and that would act against Israel if it continued attacking Lebanon. Yeah, this is what happens. Anytime Iran goes, hey, we're a 1,000-year-old culture and nation, we really value diplomacy, we are going to do diplomacy, the Western barbarians look at that situation and go, oh, these guys are pussies, bro. They're so scared of the smoke. So they're literally forced to take action like this over and over again. It's so funny that this keeps happening. This is literally what happened during Operation Epstein's Fury. We are at the 100th day of Operation Epstein's Fury. 100 days ago, America and Israel miscalculated Iranian strategic patience and strategic restraint as weakness. And they engaged in the act of perfidy once again, as they had done so in the 12-day war. Okay? This forced Iran's hand in the aftermath of the assassination and the decapitation strikes against his leadership and the Minab school strike that killed 150 plus little schoolgirls going to school. Iran realized that they had to implement the Mosaic defense system, which they, very successfully implemented, and start striking the Gulf and close the Strait of Hormuz and start striking Israel directly. This was incredibly effective. Okay, it showed the rest of the world that America was a paper tiger and that it did not have the capacity to defend any of these other countries with the exception of Israel, and it was barely doing a decent job defending Israel as well. Now that there's been some semblance of a ceasefire, or there's been significant restrictions on the tit-for-tat strikes between America, Israel, and Iran, all of a sudden they forgot. They forgot about the Iranian capabilities. Yeah, most interesting part of the poll, Israelis don't care about regime change. They just want to wreck Iran. Nearly a quarter, 22%, believe in full regime collapse in Iran is achievable. A solid 77% said the campaign's purpose is clear to them. And remember, Iran still holds certain cards at its disposal that it has not even deployed, like shutting off Bab el-Mandeb on the other side, completely crippling international logistics. Okay? They haven't done so yet. They have not deployed the Ansar Allah movement in the Red Sea. It's actually insane. It's actually insane that they have yet to do that. And America and Israel are still behaving like they have significant capabilities to destroy the Iranian military that they simply haven't deployed. They deployed everything and it failed. Okay? Yeah, I suspect China probably doesn't want them to close Bab el-Mandeb. But again, Iran is a sovereign nation and a very stubborn country in terms of its own sovereignty, in terms of defending its own sovereignty. I'm willing to bet they would even tell China, like, sorry, they forced our hand to do this. Not to mention, U.S. bases were not prepared for this and only had the defense against VBIED, and DOD knew this, and they went ahead with the attacks anyway. Yes, not only did they go ahead with the attacks, they also pulled out their fucking troops. And there was a tremendous amount of loss of radar systems and numerous other expensive equipment. There were people that died in the process too, like active duty service members that died in the process. They couldn't actually fucking escape in time. Trump tells Financial Times that Israel would have no choice but accept whatever the deal the U.S. negotiates with Iran. He won't have any choice. I call the shots. I call all the shots. He, Netanyahu, doesn't call the shots. Trump still has more to play nukes, or do you think he wouldn't use them? I feel like the entire purpose of nukes is to never use them. Once you use them, the world changes permanently. Okay? Anyway, why Tehran was dead serious about forcing Israel to stop its attacks on Lebanon and how it might respond. Part of the reason Iran's insistence on defending Lebanon has surprised Western observers may lie in their erroneous belief that Hezbollah is nothing but an Iranian proxy. Indeed, Hezbollah is consistently described in Western discourse as an Iranian proxy, and it appears that this statement was genuinely believed by Western observers. So if the belief is that Hezbollah is no more than a proxy, it also becomes more difficult to take Iranian threats that it will defend Lebanon seriously. A proxy, after all, is a piece of the chessboard whose faith almost invariably is to be sacrificed or consumed. Iran would surely risk regional war to defend its queen on the chessboard, but would it do the same for a pawn? Western observers ask themselves. Hold on, I gotta fucking fix my glasses. I can't read without them. But if from the outset the nuanced relationship between Hezbollah and Iran was more properly understood, a mutually beneficial alliance in which Tehran clearly is the bigger party, but not one that can simply issue diktats for Hezbollah to follow, Iran's warnings against continued Israeli attacks on Lebanon would have been taken more seriously. Yet another example of how the simplistic and unnuanced understanding of Iran's geopolitical calculations and perspectives perpetuated in the Washington discourse ultimately undermines U.S. interests and America's ability to calibrate optimal moves in the region. This also is because of our understanding of our proxies, okay? Like, for example, Ukraine. Ukraine, against Russia, has been deployed as an American proxy, even though it was, of course, unjustifiably and illegally invaded by Russia, okay? America has no investment in preserving Ukrainian lives or livelihood, okay? They don't care. It's just a fucking sleeve that they put their fist through, all right? Kurds are another great example of this. Proxies under American leadership are always dumped when their usefulness has been outlived. Okay? For Iran, the relationship between Iran and Hezbollah is a little bit different. Partially because Iran has to live in this region, right? Iran has to live in this region with Israel. And Hezbollah is right there next to Israel. And therefore, the value that Hezbollah has to Iran is far greater than the value that Ukraine has to the United States of America, or especially the Kurdish militias have to the United States of America. There's no value at the end of the day in maintaining some sort of defensive posture or burning credibility for the Kurds. That's why America will always dump the Kurds at the end of the day at the behest of Turkish interests. Like, they'll just say, all right, Turks, go ahead. Go off, kings and queens. Do whatever the fuck you want. Thank you. No. Nuclear family month canceled. Yeah, this is also here. This is Mark Dubowitz, okay? FDD guy. Remember, FDD, Foundation for Defending Democracy, which is, of course, the only democracy. When they say Foundation for Defending Democracy, they mean the only democracy on the planet, which is Israel. An Israeli government cutout that operates without any restrictions on U.S. soil and literally has its own agents in the negotiations process inside of the room. Mark Dubowitz says, exactly, the wrong reaction. Trey Yingst spoke with President Trump. We'll have more on Fox News in a few minutes. Exactly the wrong reaction if you want a deal. The regime believes it can attack U.S. forces and U.S. allies without consequence. That weakens deterrence, encourages further aggression, and makes a deal less likely. President Trump should let Israel impose severe costs. Okay? That's what the FTD guy just said. Let's see what he said shortly thereafter. Will President Trump finally recognize that there's no acceptable deal to be had with the jihadist theocracy committed to mass martyrdom and mass destruction? He needs to, and soon. The alternative is clear. Maximum support for millions of Iranians who want to bring down the regime and are already back on the streets. Their numbers will grow. Trump should stand with them. Oh, so you don't want to have a deal with the theocracy. You can't have a deal with the theocracy. Got it.
If you would support a deal that includes Iran getting access to that money.
Well, I'm not in the room to understand what the leverage points are. The fact that Iran is doing this sends the signal that they're trying to get some of their leverage back, and they're making these decisions. So it's hard for me to say this should happen or that should happen. I was really and have been really critical of the way the Obama administration dealt with this. Listen, they sent boatloads of money to Iran. Next thing you know, we've got their terrorist-funded cells in Gaza, Hamas attacking and butchering Israelis. And we saw what happened with Hezbollah on the northern Israel border, the Houthis. Listen, all of that funded by Iran. And so anytime you talk about giving them any kind of money, you've got to understand what they're planning to use it for, unless we can assure ourselves and our country and our countrymen that that's not going to happen. But I'm not in a position to be able to understand all the different things in play here right now at this moment.
But it does sound like giving Iran access to those billions of dollars is concerning to you, that you don't like the idea of Iran getting access to billions of dollars that had previously been frozen.
Well, I don't trust them. I don't trust their regime. I don't trust the way that they have even dealt with this. We don't even know sometimes who we're dealing with. But ultimately, I want peace. I want the Strait opened. I want gas prices to come down. But I also don't want to cut and run. And I don't want to live under a constant threat of a nuclear or a dirty bomb on our soil from this world sponsor of terrorism. And so, I want everything at the same time. I want our national security protected. I don't want Iran funding Hamas, the Houthis, or Hezbollah. I don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. And I certainly don't want them to have a dirty bomb. Can I have all those things wrapped up in one box? I think it's possible. I think that's what President Trump has said he's trying to do. I'm not in the room negotiating right now, but he's been pretty clear. We don't want to live this way anymore. And if we don't deal with the Iranians in this way, we're going to do it for another 50 years.
The president did an interview with NBC News, and during that interview, a couple of things I want to ask you about. But first of them, he pushed back on the assertion that he's broken a campaign
there
promise
was that.
of keeping the U.S. out
He just
of
said
any
he hated
military
it, though.
conflicts. He said,
it was
I
called the
didn't
JCPOA.
no war. Kristen Welker pushing back and saying that he had said that as he campaigned. You continue to hold town halls, and you're one of the few congresspeople still doing this, as you're talking to your constituents. Do you think voters you're talking to agree with the president on that?
Listen, I think there are some that understand. What I will say, and that's a very good question. What I've noticed is that older voters, people that have been dealing with a terrorist regime in Iran since 1979, they're kind of done with them. They want this out
Dealing
of here.
with.
They want Iran not capable of generating a nuclear bomb. Younger voters,
Dog, what Nebraskan has been dealing with Tehran?
new to them. I'm under the opinion that TikTok is spreading anti-Semitic hate every single day.
Oh my God.
I've seen it with young people. I go into classrooms and I talk to seniors that are graduated, and I'm not saying all of them, but there is this anti-Israel messaging that is pervasive among younger people, and I think it's dangerous. And so I really kind of draw a distinction between more older voters and younger voters. I'm not saying they're all the same. Certainly, I recognize also that prices are high, and that's in part tied to the strait being closed. So that creates frustration. And I'm the first to say gas prices are too high. We have to bring them down. But we also can't cut and run and continue to fund terrorism by giving Iran a bunch of money so they can continue to prop up the Houthis, the Hezbollah, and Hamas.
One other thing about that interview I wanted to ask you is that the president abruptly ended it when they started talking about the election, and he...
Yeah, David Ellison famously bought TikTok. And as the largest donor to the Friends of the IDF charity, he actually continued the TikTok anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment.
Process. Is that appropriate for the president of the United States?
Well, first of all, I didn't see the interview, and I'm being honest there. I was at the Nebraska Cattlemen's Ball very late last night, and before that, I was at the state Republican convention, where we are united more than we've ever been in Nebraska. And between church and then other commitments, I haven't seen it. But I will say, the president has an unconventional style. He's always had an unconventional style with the media. I'm not going to weigh in one side or the other on something that I haven't seen.
He unconventionally escaped questions from Meet the Press.
I felt Joe Biden is and was the duly elected president of the United States. And
Joe Biden.
In 2024, the duly elected president is Donald J. Trump. I'm focused on moving forward. I'm focused on affordability, housing affordability, working a bipartisan housing bill through the Congress. And most all of my colleagues, I think on both sides of the aisle, are looking forward to a housing bill passing. And so that's been my focus.
I do have a clip. I will play it for you. Here's a small clip.
Ooh. Nice.
Your elections in this country, we're like a third world country. Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and the press is crooked, and so is ABC and CBS and CNN.
But Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good day.
You see there, again, that's a short bit of it, but your elections are crooked is what he said.
Dog. He said CBS is crooked. Like, what more can CBS do?
We've had very fair elections, and we've duly elected both President Donald Trump and, to your point, President Joe Biden, and then Donald Trump again. Does that not concern you that he continues to spread those false statements?
I'll tell you, just yesterday at the state Republican convention, we had a speaker, the co-chair of the RNC, and she brought forward a lot of credible numbers about the number of poll watchers that indicated different problems throughout the country that were in part mostly remedied on Election Day back in 2025, or 2024. So to say that we don't have these issues, even in Nebraska, I think we had 3 or 4 people prosecuted for varying forms of election fraud on a pretty small level. I know this, the elections in Nebraska, they're safe, they're sound, I trust them. We have great systems in place to ensure that. I do worry about cities like Detroit, Chicago, places where they've historically
where there's black people,
all sorts of different kinds of ballot harvesting. And quite frankly, look at California right now. California is still counting ballots. That isn't the way. When I grew up,
they have a very specific system of mail-in ballots that they're allowed to process, but it's not fraud. It's a different way of doing it.
When I grew up in the 1980s and the 1990s, you know who won on election night, and I think 70% of Americans thinks that's the way it should work. Like, there's a deadline, there's an election day, you count the ballots and you announce the winner. When you are still counting ballots for days, weeks after the election, I just think it depreciates the confidence that Americans have in different systems. And we're going to find out here in a couple of weeks what the Supreme Court says about that. I think that's a ripe issue in front of the court right now. And I hope they say that election day is an election day. You get your vote in on election day and you count it. We don't play these games for weeks thereafter.
Yeah. And just to note, in California, you are allowed to mail in your ballot. It can be postmarked on election day. It then is good. So it takes a while for the post office to get it. They then do all of the verification on the back end once they receive that ballot. So it can take some time. But Congressman Mike Flood, we really do appreciate your time. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much. Have a good weekend. What's left
You
of it?
too. Thank you. Thank you. We are learning new information about Iran's missile attack on Israel. We're going to take you live to Jerusalem. That's next.
Jerusalem Post, citing sources, Israel will respond to Iran and is still studying the timing and scale of the response. Yeah, keep studying. Spotted an Israeli telegram. Oh my God, Biden would have been better. Oh my God. I'm going to be honest. I don't think I've ever heard anyone from Israel say that. Oh my God. By the way, incredible babies, okay? Like, genuinely, incredible babies. Israel, the biggest baby society of all time. Better talking head on CNN. Damn, okay, Trudeau.
To follow breaking news just into CNN, the Israeli military has said it intercepted incoming ballistic missiles from Iran for what appears to be the first time since early April. With us now is CNN military analyst, retired Air Force Colonel Cedric Leighton. Also, the founder and former president of the National Iranian American Council, Trita Parsi. Great to see both of you. Trita, I want to begin with you. In your view, ultimately, what precipitated Iran to fire these missiles into Israel for the first time since this peace agreement or ceasefire went into effect early April?
The U.S. and Iran have been negotiating, and the Iranian position has been that any ceasefire has to be region-wide, meaning that it cannot just be between the U.S. and Iran, but Israel also needs to stop its bombardment of Lebanon. And I think the Trump administration took that very seriously. That's part of the reason why there was that phone call that Trump had with Netanyahu, and rather a colorful phone call. And there was a push by the U.S. to push back the Israelis. But yesterday, the Israelis struck at, or actually just a couple hours ago, they struck at Beirut, in a specific area in Beirut that is also very sensitive to the Iranians. And the Iranians had warned that they would respond if that took place. And now it appears that they have. At least 4 waves of missiles have been shot at Israel. And now Trump is stepping in and saying that he does not want to see Netanyahu strike back.
No, we haven't confirmed that the president has stepped in, but you are hearing through your sources that the president has reached out to the Israeli leadership and in response to Israeli leadership saying it will have a powerful, quote unquote, powerful response to Iran?
It has been reported by other outlets that Trump has at least said that he will do this. And I think this has always been the question mark. If the Israeli-Iranian rivalry flares up again, will the U.S. re-enter that war or will it stay out? And I think if it is true that Trump is going to tell the Israelis to back off, do not continue this, that is the right call, because he cannot allow the Israelis or the Iranians to ensure that their rivalry takes the U.S. hostage and forces the U.S. back into a war that it does not want to be part of any longer.
Trita, is this a setback or is this more of the same?
No, this is absolutely a setback. We shouldn't be in this situation at all. If diplomacy had been done somewhat differently, I think we could have avoided this scenario.
Cut Israel
altogether.
out. Say it on CNN.
It may also be a turning point in the sense that now it becomes very clear what happens if there isn't a deal. And that may sharpen the focus of every side to make sure that they actually get across the goal line. But there are a lot of challenges in the talks, and almost all of them go back to the deep, deep mistrust that exists between the two sides.
Since when did we just start accepting what a habitual liar says is fact? What? Trump? We don't. What Trita's saying has since been confirmed. Yeah, me when I call the shots. Financial Times, I call the shots. I call the shots. He, Netanyahu, doesn't call the shots. Yeah, we believe you, big dog. For sure. For sure. Definitely. Totally believable. Anyway, I gotta watch this fucking... By the way, at the behest of Israel, the ceasefire is violated again. Israel's being shot at. Every other news outlet is talking about how Donald Trump has to do a forceful response here. Donald Trump has to reign in Israel, potentially. What is Fox News talking about? Exposing the truth. Ron Johnson, Wisconsin senator, slams Biden health officials over COVID safety. Anyway, Let's watch the full Trump interview with Meet the Press, where he basically fucking walked away because he's a bitch.
Morning. Today marks 100 days since the United States launched the first strikes against Iran. Midterm pressures are growing, with no clear end to the war in sight. On Friday, President Trump took his case to rural
Can't believe you're
voters
getting
in
mogged.
Chippewa
Yeah, I
Falls,
am.
Wisconsin. At the invitation of the White House, we joined him at Custer Farms and had a wide-ranging interview that was unfortunately interrupted multiple times by the stormy weather overhead. President Trump, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. We are going to talk about your visit while you're here in Wisconsin, but I'd like to start off by talking about the major issue that you are focused on every day, which is Iran. Mm-hmm. Sunday will mark 100 days since the first strikes. Your Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said that the war had concluded. And yet just this week, Iran attacked U.S. allies in the region, calling it retaliation for a set of U.S. airstrikes. Is the United States at war with Iran?
Well, they've been largely decapitated, and I call it a military exercise because people would rather have it called that. It's not a big war for us. It's not.
He looks like absolute dog shit. How does he seemingly get worse every time we see him?
We have the most powerful military in the world. I built it, frankly. I built it in my first 4 years, and I'm using it a little bit in my second 4 years. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their anti-aircraft is gone. They might have built it up a little bit over the last 4 weeks during this little ceasefire that we did at the request of some very good people, very, very fine people from, actually from numerous places, as you know. You know, there are a lot of people involved, but from Pakistan in particular, the Field Marshal and the Prime Minister. And we're very close to having a deal, and if we don't have a deal, we'll do it one way or the other. Either way, we win.
I do want to talk about the terms of any potential
Sure.
deal in just a moment, but let me just follow up with you. You did post on social media just this week, my final negotiations to end the war with the Islamic Republic of Iran. There is a naval blockade in place,
Yeah.
which technically is an act of war under international law. So is this a war as long as there's a naval blockade in place?
Well, we have a blockade. It's been extremely effective, and the reason we have it is they try to blockade, and now we blockaded them. And as you know, they're losing $400 to $500 million a day. It's not sustainable for them. They have an economy that's shot in addition to everything else. Their leaders are gone. Their generals are gone. Their first tier and second tier are gone. Much of their third tier is gone. But they put up a blockade, and so we blockaded them, and we have the ultimate blockade. I don't consider that a war, but if you want to define it as such, I guess you can.
Well, how do you define it?
I don't define it at all. I don't think about it. I just do what I have to do.
If you're not specifically calling it a war, would you consider sending some of the troops who are stationed there, who were sent because of Operation Epic Fury there home? No, would you consider sending them home if it's not technically a war?
We don't need as many troops. I think you just like.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. She's unironically doing a good job. I don't know how. I don't know if my eyes are deceiving me, if my ears are hearing the wrong information, but so far, so good. She's 2 for 2, which now makes me realize exactly why he left by the end of this interview, because if she keeps up this energy for like the next 10 minutes, this thing is going to fucking fall off the rails, okay? If it's not a war, will you pull out the troops? Great question.
Like it's on the to err on the side of caution. We have a lot of people there. They're very safe. You know, if you think we beat Venezuela, we lost nobody. We took over the whole country. We lost nobody. We have a great relationship, by the way, with Venezuela.
Steyer Bros, it might be Styover. From Vote Hub, Wingcast update. Hilton's chance of advancing in California's governor's race rose from 85% to 93% after Steyer again fell short of his needed marks on Saturday. The aggregate drops were roughly as expected, but with more votes in, uncertainty is shrinking, and Hilton remains clearly favored.
Venezuela is doing very well, but we lost nobody. We've lost 13 people here, and that's a lot. 13 people too many. But if you look at Vietnam, where hundreds of thousands of people were killed, if you look at any one of the last 7 or 8 wars where many, many people were killed, we lost 13. And again, 13 is too many. I don't want to lose any. But 13 is less than anybody's ever even envisioned. I think we're doing a great job.
But so are you saying you would consider sending some of the troops home, sir? Some of the 50,000?
He's like, 13's nothing, bro. I kill 13 troops and forget about it. That's kind of crazy because wasn't that the rallying cry for Joe Biden? How he allowed 13 troops to fucking die when they were exiting Kabul? Kabul Gate? Literally, that was the whole thing. Remember when conservatives would put like, they would pour like beers, empty beers, 13 of them? They would say 13 of our best. And Benghazi too, but Benghazi is, nobody gives a shit about Benghazi anymore. But yeah, Hillary with Benghazi, Joe Biden with the 13 of our best troops dying in Kabul. Meanwhile, Donald Trump literally is like, yeah, 13 of them died. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? L for them. If they knew how to duck and dodge, they would have been able to survive the Iranian drones. I like my war heroes who don't die to the Shahed drones. That's right, they're losers. They failed me. They should have eaten the drone and been fine. I would have been fine.
Troops who were sent there as a part of Operation
I
Epic
would say
Fury?
this, it cost us very little to keep them there. I don't consider them in danger. We have the best defense anyone's ever seen. We have the best offense anyone's ever seen. So I don't consider it danger. I would say it would be foolhardy to do that because maybe we may use them. It's unlikely, but I think we'll keep them there until such time as we have a completion. And when we have a completion, you will see things like you've never seen. The oil will go down. The stock market already, as you know, it's hit an all-time high. Even in the midst of it, it hit all-time highs.
Yeah, look. Funny because this is what he said about the 13 service members killed during the withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021. This is the third anniversary of the botched Afghanistan withdrawal, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. Gross incompetence, 13 dead, American soldiers, hundreds of people wounded and dead. Americans have billions of dollars of military equipment left behind. You don't take our soldiers out first, you take them out last when all else is successfully done. Russia then invaded Ukraine, Israel was attacked, and the USA became and is a laughingstock all over the world. Fake news media remains silent in order to protect the worst administration in the history of our country, MAGA 2024. Yeah. Back then it was 13 of our best. Now it's 13 of our worst because Trump killed them.
73 all-time highs in a short period of time that I've been in office, which is a record, by the way. And, we're doing very well. But the main thing is we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. Can't do it. We won't do it.
Yeah, you just referenced the 13 Americans who were killed. And I want to know what your red line is. What would trigger you to restart military action? Would it be Iran killing more American citizens?
Well, certainly that would be something that I would think about very seriously. But
my God.
red line would be.
Oh, my God. He literally is not even committing to restarting the war if American soldiers or civilians get killed. Oh, my God. Oh, he's so cooked. Yo, he won't even posture? He won't even posture? God damn. Like I said, and I will keep repeating this, the IRGC is the most powerful anti-Trump, the most successful anti-Trump force on the planet currently. It's not the Democratic Party. Straight up, it's the IRGC. Perhaps more powerful than even China, honestly.
If I think I wasn't going to make a deal or if I wasn't going to make a deal fast enough. So we're having very good negotiations with the people that are leading the country now. It's the third group that we've been dealing with. And they are different. And you could say it's regime change, actually, because these are very different people. I find them to be more rational, very smart.
Who is that? Who's leading the country?
Well, I don't want to go into names, but you know who they are. I mean, they're leaders. They're respected. Respected by the people that have to respect them. They are calling the shots. We know that because we see it through various tests that we've given. It's a little bit strange because you have leaders that have been there for a long time and they get wiped out. Then you have leaders that you also know, the second tier, and they get wiped out. All of a sudden, we're dealing with different people. But no, I think that we'll either have something done fairly quickly or we'll finish it out militarily.
Are you talking about the son of the supreme
Well, he's
leader?
a part of it, yes.
He has not been seen in public. What is his status? Have you talked to him directly?
I do believe they have great respect for him. I see it. I mean, they want to get his concurrence. They've said to me, they've said to others that they're looking for approval, and he is part of the approval process, absolutely.
Have you spoken to him directly? You
I
said
have
you want to meet with him.
No, I have not. I would if he'd like to, but I have not spoken to him directly.
Do you know where he is?
I will tell you, they do.
How he is?
Yeah. They do pay homage to him. I would tell you if they didn't. They seem to, based on what I see, they seem to respect him a great deal.
Do you know where he is? Do you know how he is doing physically?
I don't want to say whether or not I know where he is, but there's a good probability that I do.
Is he inside Iran?
I'd rather not say that.
Okay, he is the son of the last supreme leader, who was obviously a hardliner. Is this younger Khomeini any better for the United States than his father was?
Younger, I think more rational, injured. It's pretty
Gay. Happy Pride Month. I have it on good authority that he's gay. Not me, though. I'm not. I just like Andrew Lloyd Webber. That's not gay. Broadway musicals are beautiful. They used to be until woke killed it.
badly injured. So there's a certain bravery there. A lot of people, if they were injured that badly, they wouldn't be talking about, how we doing with the United States. They'd have other things on their mind. So there's a certain bravery there. But he is very seriously injured, yeah.
I think it's really funny that this guy is talking about like how gravely wounded and injured other foreign governments' heads of state are. Dude, you literally look like death itself. It's actually remarkable how much the MAGA cult refuses to recognize how wounded Trump looks. Trump sincerely looks like a wounded bird all the time. He looks like a fucking melting wax puppet. Look at him.
What is the status of talks exactly in this moment? How close are you to making a deal? Are we talking about days, weeks, months, Mr. President?
I think we're very close. We have a couple of points. They don't even seem like big points. They've conceded the fact that they will not have nuclear weapons. We had a clause in there that we will not develop nuclear weapons, and everybody was very happy with it except me. And I said, well, what happens if they not develop, but they go out and purchase, they acquire? I want to put the word, if they buy or purchase or acquire, you've got to have that in there too, because that's not developing. So they don't have the right to develop or purchase, acquire, or buy.
Have they pushed back against that? Is that one of the sticking points?
A little bit, and then they didn't.
Okay. You have been saying for months, Mr. President, that Iran is begging to make a deal.
True.
If they are so desperate to make a deal, why haven't they made a deal with you yet?
Because it's a very hard thing for them. They've had great independence. They've dealt with very weak and ineffective leadership on behalf of the United States and other countries, frankly, that allowed them to get away with murder. And I think they can't believe they're in the situation where they've been virtually decapitated.
But if they're so desperate, Mr. President, why haven't they said yes to the terms you're proposing?
Yeah, it's just wait, so they're strong, but they're weak. Whoa, what the fuck? Oh. Accidentally ended up muting myself again. They're strong, but they're weak. They're strong, but they're weak. Let's see where he goes with this.
They're proud. There are things they never...
I like that he's doing the enemy is both weak and strong at the same time. Like he's doing this at the Meet the Press. He's not even spacing it out. Nope, immediately contradicting yourself. Got it.
Thought they'd be doing that they're going to have to do. They've got no choice. And it takes a little while. You're talking about 47 years of getting away with whatever they wanted. I mean, this should have been done long ago. This should have been done by other presidents or other countries. It doesn't have to be us, other countries. But they were very close to having a nuclear weapon twice. That was when I terminated the Iran nuclear deal, which was a path. That deal, the JCPOA, that deal was tantamount to giving them a nuclear weapon. It was a horrible deal given by Barack Obama and really penned by him. It was a horrible deal. It was, it expired long ago. I terminated it. But had I not terminated it, it expired long ago. It was a short-term deal. It was a road to a nuclear weapon. They would have had a nuclear weapon 5 years ago.
But Mr. President, I'm curious because when you were...
Literally, they went back to the process of enriching uranium because Donald Trump added additional sanctions onto Iran. after destroying the JCPOA for no reason other than the fact that he's Israel's puppy. And after all of that, Nick Fuentes literally still did a January 6th. After all that shit, just remember that. Sometimes it's important to remember that because, like, his fans will be like, you don't understand. He's been anti-Semitic for decades. He's actually been so consistent on this. It's like, okay. And then he promoted the most pro-Israel president of all time, Donald Trump. And not only that, but also participated in a fucking failed insurrection at the behest of that pro-Israel president, Donald Trump. Just saying. Something to think about. Even now when he's like, oh, I'm hot and cold. I'm hot and cold. Kind of feels like he just hates Jews. He doesn't really mind Israel all that much, regardless of what he says. And that the hatred of Israel is secondary for him. It's just an opportunity for him to normalize Jew hatred in general. You know?
Campaigning, you said you would rip up the Iran nuclear deal, but negotiate a better deal. Why didn't you negotiate a better deal at the time? Because after it was ripped up, there weren't guardrails and they escalated their production of enriched uranium.
Excuse me. It takes years to do these things. These people have been fighting for 47 years. They've been killing Americans. They've been taking off their legs and their arm, and their faces have been hurt so badly and so horribly. I'm moving very fast. I'm into 3 months. You know, Vietnam lasted 19 years. I'm into my 3rd month, and all I do is say, whoa, when are you going to win? If I were a Democrat, nobody would be talking that way, but it doesn't matter to me. I've gotten so used to it. Look, we have totally destroyed their military. They have some missiles left. They have some drones left.
Do you know how many missiles?
Yes, exactly.
How many?
I don't want to tell you.
Can you give me a ballpark?
But they have some left. No, but I know almost to the number, and we know where they are, too. And we know where their drones are, and we know where their drone factories are. Most of the drone factories have been knocked out. Most of the launching pads have been knocked out, and most of the missile manufacturing areas have been knocked out. But they still have capacity. They have some missiles. They have some drones. I would say percentage-wise, maybe 21, 22% of their missiles. It's a lot of missiles, but it's not what it was when we first attacked.
So you're saying they have 21, 22% of their missiles left?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Let's talk about what specifically you are demanding as a part of this short-term deal. Will the United States agree to a deal with Iran that doesn't explicitly and immediately give up its nuclear enrichment program on the front end?
Well, you know, depending on when you say immediately, look, it is buried under mountains because our B-2s were incredible. The pilots of our B-2s were unbelievable. And it's buried. They can't get it. The only 2 countries that could take it, that have the equipment to take, you have to understand, 3 mountains have fallen in on them, right? So you understand that because the fake news was going around saying, oh, maybe they didn't hit their target. 1 o'clock in the morning, pitch black, no moon, no nothing, and every one of those bombs went right down those chutes and blew up. They can't get it no matter what. I mean, they can get it, I guess, with years of work. But the only 2 countries that can get it are us and China, because we're the only 2 with the equipment that's capable of doing that kind of work.